Prince Clemens von Metternich of Austria once said in reference to the turbulent political times he lived in, "When France sneezes, Europe catches a cold." Indeed, a wave of revolutions inspired by France did sweep across Europe in 1830 and 1848. Liberals and nationalists in many parts of Europe renewed their struggles in full force against the old order restored by the Congress of Vienna. Remember that the Congress of Vienna saw the Bourbon monarchy restored to France once again. The first king after this restoration, Louis XVIII, managed the country well by sharing power with representatives of the people while also carefully crafting compromises between the conservatives and liberals of France. His successor, however, Charles X, proved to be unpopular. An autocratic ruler, Charles X passed a number of acts that gradually stripped away power, the promises made by Louis XVIII to the people. This concluded in the July Ordinances, where Charles X suspended the legislature, limited the right to vote, and restricted the press. As a result, riots erupted in Paris, where workers, university students, and middle-class liberals set up barricades in the streets. Soldiers refused to fire on the rebels and began to join them. Realizing he had lost support, Charles X abdicated and fled to England. The July Revolution, as it was called, ended quickly. Middle-class leaders of the revolution feared that if France became a republic, foreign powers like Austria might intervene. Therefore, they established a new constitutional monarchy and chose Louis Philippe as their new king. The July Revolution of France also inspired two other nationalist movements in 1830, one in Belgium and another in Poland. First, Belgium. After the Congress of Vienna, the Low Countries, that is, the Netherlands and Belgium, were united under a Dutch king in the United Kingdom of the Netherlands. However, this left the Belgians, who lived in the southern part of the country, despising the arrangement. They spoke a different language from the Dutch. They also were largely Roman Catholic, while most Dutch were Protestant. These cultural and religious differences sparked a nationalist movement among the Belgians, and in August 1830, riots led by students and workers broke out in Brussels. The Belgians would eventually defeat the Dutch army and declare their independence. In time, Belgium would gain recognition as an independent nation from other countries in Europe. In Poland, nationalists tried to win their independence from Russia in 1830, but the Poles were divided amongst themselves in terms of what direction to take the uprising, and they also did not gain any foreign help they had hoped for from Britain or France. Thus the uprising did not last longer than 6 months, when a Russian army crushed the rebels, executed many leaders, and imposed harsh rule in Poland. Now pause the video and review part 1 of your handout with your group. You may go back and play back portions you have missed. Revolution in France was again the spark for revolution in other countries. Severe economic problems beginning in 1846 brought untold hardship in France to the lower middle class, workers, and peasants. At the same time, members of the middle class clamored for more political rights. The government of Louis Philippe refused to make these changes, and opposition grew. The monarchy was finally overthrown in 1848. A group of moderate and radical Republicans set up a provisional or temporary government hoping to make France a republic once again. This provisional government called for the election of representatives to a constitutional assembly that would draw up a new constitution. Elections were to be held by universal male suffrage, that is, all adult men could vote. The provisional government also set up national workshops to provide work for the unemployed. From March to June, the number of unemployed enrolled in the national workshops rose from 6,100 to almost 120,000 people. This emptied the treasury of France and frightened all the moderates, who reacted by closing the workshops on June 21st. The workers refused to accept this decision and poured into the streets of Paris. In 4 days of bitter and bloody fighting, government forces crushed the working class revolt. Thousands were killed and thousands more were sent to French prisons. Eventually, the new constitution, ratified on November 4, 1848, set up the Second Republic of France. The Second Republic had a single legislature, elected by universal male suffrage. A president, also chosen by universal male suffrage, served for 4 years. In the elections for the presidency held in December of 1848, Charles Louis Napoleon Bonaparte, called Louis Napoleon, the nephew of the famous French ruler, won a resounding victory and would lead France for decades to come. News of the 1848 revolution in France led to upheaval in other parts of Europe. The Congress of Vienna in 1815 had recognized the existence of 38 independent German states called the Germanic Confederation. Of these, Austria and Prussia were the two great powers. The other states varied in size. In March of 1848, a demonstration in Berlin turned into a riot when police opened fire in a crowd. Workers and middle-class liberals then set up barricades. When told of the revolt, the Prussian king Frederick William IV was amazed. "It cannot be," he said. "My people love me." To avoid further bloodshed, he withdrew his troops from the city and promised reform. A National Assembly was elected to the task of creating a new constitution. However, middle-class moderates, radical workers, and the monarch himself lost trust with each other, and encouraged the Austrian success in suppressing revolts. Frederick William dissolved the National Assembly and sent his troops back to Berlin. Once in full control, he created his own constitution, with universal male suffrage and an elected legislature. Coinciding with the events in Prussia, cries for change led to many other German rulers to promise constitutions, a free press, and jury trials. Indeed, an all-German parliament called the Frankfurt Assembly was held in May 1848 to fulfill a liberal and nationalist dream, the preparation of a constitution for a new, united Germany. Deputies to the parliament were elected by universal male suffrage. In April of 1849, the parliament used the Constitution for Germany. Under the Constitution, individual German states would give up many of their own powers to a central government. The delegates then offered the crown of a united Germany to Frederick William IV. To their dismay, the Prussian king rejected the crown because it was offered not by German princes, but by the people, from the gutter, as he described it. He then sent an army to disband the Frankfurt Parliament, thereby ending this early attempt at unification. The Austrian Empire had many problems in 1848. The empire was a multinational state, meaning a collection of different peoples, which included Germans, Czechs, Magyars, the Hungarians, Slovaks, Romanians, Slovenes, Poles, Croats, Serbians, and Italians. Only the Habsburg Emperor provided a common bond. The Germans, though only a quarter of the population, played a leading role in governing the Austrian Empire. In March of 1848, university students, along with the workers and middle-class liberals, poured into the streets of Vienna demanding a constitution, an end to feudalism, and the removal of Prince Clemens von Metternich. To show his goodwill, the Austrian emperor promised reform and dismissed Metternich, the Austrian foreign minister. Yet the revolutionary forces pushed on and took control of the capital, demanding a liberal constitution. During the uprising in Vienna, revolts erupted among the various nationalities in other parts of the Austrian Empire. In Hungary, the Magyars, led by the fiery nationalist Louis Kossuth, demanded a constitution and a separate Hungarian government. In Bohemia, the Czechs issued similar demands. In northern Italy, nationalists in Lombardy and Venetia also revolted, supported by other free Italian states. Overwhelmed by these events, the Austrian government granted the demands of the Magyars and the Czechs and withdrew its armies from northern Italy. Within 3 months, however, the tide of revolution turned. Germans who lived in Bohemia resented being under Czech control, and the empire decided to strike back. Austrian officials had made concessions to appease the revolutionaries, but were determined to re-establish their control over the empire. In June of 1848, Austrian military forces crushed the Czech rebels in Prague. By the end of October, the rebels in Vienna were defeated as well. With the help of the Russian army of 140,000 men, the Hungarian revolutionaries were finally subdued in 1849. The revolutions in Austria and the Austrian Empire had failed.